Ed Gilbert, 20 California. Just a couple of quick questions. The first one, that $3.2 million, that's a lot of money. Well, does that go, when that comes in, is that something that will go into our general fund? Will it go into a water department fund? Will it go into a sewer fund? Where will that 3.2 reside? Or will it reside anywhere?
We still have questions with that, don't we, Jimmy?
It's water.
It's water.
It does not go into general.
We tried to get it to the general fund, but we can't, it goes into the emergency.
So that means our water rates will go down significantly at some point? Just joking. Next thing is, there's a motion here authorizing the settlement with Pasanero. What property is that on? You can give us a map number, but
it's the property on Elliott Road. It's a large barn right where Elliott Road makes the sharp bend before it heads out toward Best Road.
okay.
That's the
So it's a personal residence there. It's not.
It's a personal residence, and it's a barn that's attendant to the personal residence. It's a large pole barn.
Thank you.
Arena inside, I believe.
We also have 2 people having 5 hours added to their weekly schedule, I guess. Going from 30 to 35 hours.
Just hours on the week.
Yeah, that's fine.
Did I not see one? I thought I saw 2. A lovely. And the other person was the assessor. Bradley Canning.
No, we're appointing Bradley as the assessor tonight.
Oh, okay. Does the going to 35 hours, does that make them full-time and give them all the benefits of a full-time employee and things of that nature?
Yes, but
She was 30 hours is full-time.
Oh, 30 hours is full-time. Okay. Chief, I don't know if you can answer this question for me or not, but it seemed like about an hour and a half, all hell broke loose on 9 and 20. Is everybody okay?
No, but no serious injuries, I'm happy to report.
Okay.
The incident began with several 911 calls from motorists in the Walmart parking lot who reported an erratic driver.
Oh, okay.
And a few minutes later, the same vehicle was reported to have struck a car in Cows Corners area,
Okay.
right around Stewart's,
Gotcha.
and then struck another car in the vicinity of Price Chopper. I'm not sure exactly where.
Wow.
So,
You had your hands full. All right, that was it for me. Thank you.
Anyone else at this time? Me?
Ed stole my spot. I didn't go first.
Sorry, Nate.
That's my fault here. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Nathan Hans, 314 Sunset Ave. I'd like to share with the board and my fellow neighbors something I came across online. I tend to Google a lot, kind of Google community and community building, those types of things. And I found a particular article I'd like to share. And the name of it was How the Internet Will Help Create Citizens by Otis White of Civic Strategy. And the title, the first paragraph of the article, it had cities exist to create citizens. And it goes on to say what cities are perceived to do, but not really. And he says, I would argue that the real purpose of cities is to create a group of people who will take responsibility for their community. And it is this willingness to accept responsibility that is the difference between a resident and a citizen. He says the work which involves difficult issues of hope, scarcity, and fairness. This isn't fun stuff. It requires listening, understanding, searching for common ground, and some degree of optimism and perseverance. When they try it, people recognize that community work is good for them. It makes them more complete in understanding human beings, and they like it for all its difficulties and frustrations. But it's also time-consuming. So how do people find the time for community work? And he goes on to say how we're not really busier than we've ever been, it just seems that way. And it's how we spend our free time that really makes the difference. And he often cites a statistic that people spend 20 hours watching TV. And he says that's starting to break. He says the encouraging news is TV is losing its grip. For the first time in the history of television, young people are watching less television than their elders. And he goes on to say how the internet, well, it might not seem like a good thing because YouTube and blogs are just as time wasters as sitcoms are. For TV, you have to be a consumer. It only goes one way. Whereas the internet gives you the opportunity to be a producer, to contribute. And he talks about Wikipedia and how thousands of people from around the world volunteered their time to create the world's largest encyclopedia that could have never been done, probably with any amount of money that you can't pay people to do that kind of thing. And he says, ultimately, though, we find that the greatest potential for internet-assisted involvement is in communities, where people can learn about issues on the internet, get organized, raise money, and volunteer their time online, and then meet face-to-face to do the work. It's the perfect marriage of internet efficiency and low cost with the connectedness and concreteness of community work. Never before has it been easier to connect with our neighbors online. And to lead this beautiful town to a few blogs, as if that's the best that we can do, is unacceptable. While it's sure going to take more than one idealistic kid, I think with the experience of all of our neighbors, that we can make our online community as beautiful as our offline community. For an example of an online community that is very rich, you can look at the Davis, California Wiki. And it has events, and I remember watching it around Election Day, and they had a pancake dinner after the election for anyone to come to and kind of de-stress from the campaign. So that's one good example. Thank you very much for your time.
Nate, I think you're off to a good start.
Are you volunteering, Nate? To run the
Absolutely.
website? Okay.
I will do whatever I can, whatever you know how to get hold of me out.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time?
Martin Science, 11-6 Robert Lane, which is over by August Gate. First off, I'd like to thank our highway department for the excellent job that I think they've been doing, despite my neighbors thinking that they're plowing me in at the end of the driveway. I'd like to especially thank them for the job that they did, like when we had that freezing rain, etc., and then the freeze on top of that. I have the distinction of having a fire hydrant there that I've been trying to clear, and it was like solid ice, and they brought a backhoe over in order to clear that, and I'd like to personally thank them for that, and probably along with some of my neighbors, even though they don't think too much about it. Because if you ever have a fire, you really need those. I'm going to rehash something from about a year ago. Mr. McCabe, you're quite familiar with. I seem to be like a broken phonograph on that issue. For those of us who can remember what a phonograph is. And I'd also like to welcome the 2 new members of the town board. I may have missed 1 or 2 meetings, and I didn't get a chance to thank you for your service, and also I'm going to give you people a copy of what I've been talking about, which is the issue about the, in my opinion, rubber stamp of the cap and trade. I'm gonna give one packet to each of you,
Thank you.
and also one for the town clerk, so you'll have the record of what was given. Okay. My own personal opinion of it is, I don't think we really have any global warming, especially during this winter. But
You probably wouldn't get many people arguing.
what can I say? I am still concerned about some of the things as done by our US EPA, where they're going ahead and saying, aside from carbon CO2 emissions, they even want to regulate water vapor. I mean, like, personally, I think that's getting a little carried away, to say the least. What I'd like you people to do is, if you get a chance, please read that literature, and we can then maybe bring up this issue again sometime in the future, like next month or the month after.
You know who our expert is. You remember the story when he was reading about that on the airplane with me?
Well, and I gave, I specifically, back in September, I gave Mr. Cherubino the name and email address of a person in one of the universities, and I haven't heard anything as to whether he's even sent an email.
No, I read,
I thought you opened that up, Joe.
no, I read the articles. The internet is a great source of information highway, so I've read plenty of articles on this subject. Again, Martin, as I said to you in private, I'm getting, and to the board members, it's a 50-50 split on this, the CO2 emission or not. I mean, it's a 50-50 split. It depends on where you want to go with it. And I think as we explained to you in our initial reasoning for voting, the way the town was to eliminate the CO2 was so that we could get the necessary funding. But it's 50-50 who you want to believe.
Well, there's also I'm also of the opinion that some of the funding is going to have all kinds of strings attached to it. When you start accepting things from the federal government, that's part of the problem. And in addition to which, most of the so-called quote experts that have the PhDs and whatever, they have a vested interest in the fact that they're not going to get any more research funds if they don't go along with the quote status quo of the UN mandates and the EPA mandates. So therefore, they have a vested interest in going ahead and saying, yeah, we think that there might be a problem with CO2 or this or that. The ones that don't have any vested interest are the ones that are outright saying, this is ridiculous. We know that there's nothing here. As a matter of fact, CO2 doesn't cause global warming. It's a result of global warming. But be that as it may, let's wait for another month or two so that our two distinguished new board members can get a chance to get up to speed and read over some of that material. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a couple points I'd like to make this evening. One, Chief, I'd like to just recognize the fact that you've put your report on your website. It's just a wonderful step towards sharing more information with the public, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you. And I think it's fair to say I'm the only member of the public who has attended all the ethics board meetings, and I've missed one finance committee meeting. But with that as an introduction, I'd like to recognize Jim Bragg. He's a member of both, and as a result, he's very heavily involved in the work of both those groups and in the after-hours work that both entails.